You know that feeling at the end of the day when your stomach looks and feels like it belongs to someone else. Tight, swollen, a pressure that sits somewhere between uncomfortable and genuinely painful. You press your hand against your abdomen and it's hard when it should be soft. Or maybe for you it's the other kind of problem. 3 days go by and nothing moves. You feel sluggish and heavy in a way that has nothing to do with how much you've eaten. You've tried drinking more water, you've tried eating differently. Some things help a little, nothing actually fixes it. And in the meantime, your stomach is running your life. And after a while, you stop trusting your own gut. You're choosing what to eat based on how you know your gut will react. You're avoiding situations where the bloating might make you uncomfortable in public. You're finishing meals and waiting, already knowing what the next hour is going to feel like. If any of that sounds familiar, stay with me, because what I'm about to show you changes your morning routine, and that starts changing everything that comes after it. Here's exactly what's going to happen if you try this for 7 mornings. Every morning, before breakfast, before coffee, you're going to prepare one simple thing. It takes 2 minutes, the ingredient costs almost nothing. You've probably walked past it in the grocery store 1,000 times without knowing what it was for. Within the first week, most people notice the same things. The bloating after meals gets quieter, things start moving more regularly, the abdomen that felt permanently pressurized begins to soften. By day 7, most people describe their gut as finally cooperating, instead of fighting them at every meal. Before I show you what this is, I want to show you why your gut has been behaving this way, because the reason is almost certainly not what you've been told. Most people assume bloating comes down to fiber, water, or movement, but if you've already tried all 3, you know that explanation isn't enough. Here's what most people have never been told. Your gut is supposed to move food through your body using a wave-like muscular motion called peristalsis. It's constant, rhythmic, automatic, or it's supposed to be. When peristalsis is working properly, food moves through at the right pace. Gas doesn't accumulate, and everything arrives where it needs to go without backup, bloating, or discomfort. But when the muscles of the gut wall go into spasm, when they tighten and clench instead of flowing in that smooth, rhythmic wave, everything stops, or slows dramatically. Gas gets trapped, food sits, the abdomen inflates. And here's what makes this specific to you. Gut spasms don't announce themselves the way a muscle cramp in your leg does. They're quiet. You don't feel them as cramps necessarily. You feel them as bloating, as the pressure that builds after every meal, as the constipation that no amount of extra water seems to resolve. So the question becomes, what actually relaxes gut muscle spasm? What if the answer to that question has been sitting in ancient medicine for over 3,000 years, and most people in the modern world have never connected it to their own daily discomfort? Here's a story you probably haven't heard. In ancient Greece, there was a word, marathron, that meant 2 things simultaneously. It was the name of a plant, and it was the name of a battlefield. The Battle of Marathon, the famous battle in 490 BC where the Athenian army defeated the Persian forces against extraordinary odds, giving us the origin of the marathon race, took place in a field covered in this plant. The Greeks didn't consider this a coincidence. They considered it a sign. This plant was sacred to them. They believed it gave strength and courage to people who consumed it. Warriors carried it, athletes chewed it, physicians prescribed it. The ancient Egyptians even recorded it in the Ebers Papyrus, written around 1550 BC, as a remedy for wind in the belly, for flatulence, for the bloating that trapped gas produces. The ingredient is fennel seeds. But here's what surprised me most. It wasn't the bloating that disappeared first. It was the pressure, that constant feeling of carrying a stomach that never completely relaxed. And what this ancient, overlooked, sitting in your grocery store seed does to the gut, consumed as a morning ritual for 7 days, is the direct answer to the problem most people have been trying to solve with fiber supplements and laxatives. If this is already making sense, subscribe right now. Because what fennel seeds do to constipation and bloating is one of the oldest and most underused stories on this channel, and there's a great deal more coming. Let's stay with the history for a moment because it tells us something important. The Greek name for fennel was marathron. The battle named after it happened in a field of it. This is not a minor plant in the ancient Greek imagination. This is a plant that was so woven into daily life in the biblical world that it appeared in scripture, and yet most people in the modern Western world have it sitting forgotten in a spice rack, or don't even know what it looks like. Here is what fennel seeds actually do to the gut. Simply and connected directly to what you'll feel. The primary active compound in fennel seeds is called anethole, and what anethole does, confirmed in multiple studies and documented in medical literature for decades, is relax the smooth muscle of the gastrointestinal wall. Remember what we said earlier about gut spasm, about the muscles of the gut tightening instead of flowing rhythmically? Anethole is the direct answer to that. It is antispasmodic. It releases the tension in the gut wall and allows peristalsis to resume its normal, fluid, wave-like motion. What does that mean for you in practice? Things start moving. Gas that was trapped finds its way out. Food that was backed up begins progressing. The pressure in the abdomen that had been building begins to release. There's a second mechanism that addresses bloating specifically. Fennel seeds are what herbalists call carminative. They actively help disperse gas that has accumulated in the digestive tract. Studies have found fennel seed extract to be as effective as pharmaceutical dimethicone, a common over-the-counter gas relief medication for reducing flatulence. And then there's the gut lining itself. A 2022 study published in PLOS One found that fennel seed extract improved intestinal barrier function at the molecular level, meaning the gut lining becomes less permeable, less reactive, and better at protecting itself from the irritants that contribute to chronic bloating. This is not one mechanism, it's three, working simultaneously. 3 mechanisms, one tiny seed, 3,000 years of people discovering it worked. Modern science finally explaining why. In India, the practice of eating fennel seeds after a meal is so deeply embedded that you may have done it yourself without realizing what it was. Walk into virtually any Indian restaurant in the world. On the way out, near the door, there is usually a small bowl of seeds, sometimes plain, sometimes coated in sugar, sometimes mixed with other herbs. You take a small pinch and chew them on the way out. This practice has been happening in India for thousands of years, and the people who established it weren't doing it for flavor. They were doing it because they observed, consistently and across generations, that meals ended better with it, that the bloating which might otherwise follow a heavy meal was reduced, that digestion felt more complete. The Middle Eastern tradition is equally consistent. Fennel seed tea appears across Persian, Egyptian, and Arab medical texts as one of the primary remedies for digestive complaints, drunk warm, after meals, or first thing in the morning before food arrived. 9 sacred plants. Fennel was one of them. So here's what we paid attention to. Not a clinical trial, just the body, and 7 mornings, and the kind of attention that grandmothers across 6 civilizations paid to this for 3,000 years. 1 teaspoon of fennel seeds soaked in a glass of warm water overnight. Drunk every morning, before breakfast, before anything else. Here is what people noticed. Morning 1. The first surprise is the taste. Warm, slightly sweet, slightly anise-like, nothing medicinal or harsh, more like something the body already knows, which in a sense it does. Within 20 minutes, a gentle warmth in the abdomen. Some people describe it as the gut relaxing, like a clenched fist slowly opening. Day 2, some people begin to notice things moving more easily than they have in days. Not dramatically, but the gut that had been sluggish is quieter in a different way. Not the silence of something stuck, the silence of something that simply doesn't need to announce itself. Day 3. The bloating after meals is noticeably less for most people by day 3. You finish a meal and wait for the familiar tightening, and it doesn't arrive the same way, or it arrives but smaller. The abdomen that used to expand predictably after lunch stays softer. Day 4. By day 4, many people notice something they weren't expecting. It's not just the gut. They simply feel lighter. Less pressure in the abdomen often means less mental irritation too. Day 5. Day 5 often starts with a surprise. You wake up and your stomach already feels flatter before breakfast. Day 6. If constipation has been part of your life, day 6 is often where the pattern changes. Less forcing, more rhythm, more predictability. Day 7. By day 7, most people stop thinking about their gut every hour. That's perhaps the biggest change of all. Picture sitting down to dinner with people you care about, and not spending half the meal calculating whether the food on the table is going to cause you trouble later. Picture getting dressed in the morning and your clothes fitting the way they did at the start of the day, not the way they feel by midday when the bloating has arrived. Picture finishing a long day of travel or a holiday full of meals you didn't prepare yourself, and your gut simply handling it, instead of requiring a week of careful eating afterwards to recover. That is what 3,000 years of people using this every morning were building. Not a cure, a daily practice that gave the gut what it needed to do its job properly. And the job, when given the right conditions, it does very well. The overnight soak, the simplest version, Take 1 teaspoon of fennel seeds, place them in a glass of warm water the night before. Leave them overnight at room temperature. In the morning, before breakfast, before coffee, drink the water, seeds and all, or strain them out. That's it. This is the version most traditional practitioners described, and the version closest to what cultures across the Middle East and India have practiced for generations. If you prefer warm, steep 1 teaspoon of fennel seeds in a cup of just boiled water for 8 to 10 minutes. Cover the cup while steeping to keep the aromatic compounds from escaping with the steam. Strain and drink. Add a small amount of raw honey if you'd like, which pairs naturally and adds its own gut-supportive properties. Many people also chew a small pinch after meals, as is traditional in India. Consistency is the key. 1 morning produces 1 morning of benefit. 7 mornings begin to change the pattern. The gut responds to what it receives consistently, not occasionally. Fennel seeds in the amounts described, 1 teaspoon per day in water or tea, have been used safely across thousands of years and are considered safe for most healthy adults. Pregnant women should avoid medicinal amounts of fennel, as it has historically been associated with uterine stimulation in high doses. Small culinary amounts in food are generally considered fine. A daily therapeutic preparation is not recommended during pregnancy. People on blood-thinning medication should be aware that fennel has mild anticoagulant properties. People with estrogen-sensitive conditions should consult a healthcare provider, as fennel contains phytoestrogens. 1 teaspoon in water, consumed daily, is well within the range of traditional therapeutic use for most adults. Here's something worth sitting with. In India right now, as you read this, hundreds of millions of people are chewing fennel seeds after their meals. Not because a study told them to, because their grandmothers told them to, and their grandmothers' grandmothers, and theirs. That is a chain of observation that stretches back further than almost any clinical trial can. And at the beginning of that chain, somewhere in the ancient Mediterranean world where the Bible was written and the first physicians were practicing, someone first noticed what we are still noticing today. This small seed calms the gut. It relaxes what has been clenching. It disperses what has been trapped. It lets things move the way they were always supposed to move. The Greeks named a battle after the field where it grew. You don't need a new supplement. You don't need a complicated protocol. You need what your grandmother's grandmother was doing on the other side of the world every single morning. Try it for 7 mornings. 1 teaspoon of fennel seeds in a glass of warm water, left overnight, drunk before breakfast. Then come back here and tell me what you noticed. Which day was the first one where the bloating was quieter? And here's the question I'm most curious about. Did anyone in your family ever use fennel seeds this way? A grandmother who kept them in the kitchen, or a parent who offered them after heavy meals? Leave it in the comments. You'll be surprised how many people share the memory. See you in the next one.